Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Boogie Board Tiki Bar. Today, I am delighted to be joined by Laura Wheeler. She's the co-founder and COO of RVNU out of Santa Fe, New Mexico. You may also know her from her singing. You may know her from her cycling classes if you live in the area. Laura, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so excited for this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Now, how is your holiday season? We're recording this just before the holidays in Santa Fe going.
Oh, it's good. Honestly, it is the best time to be in Santa Fe. It is the holiday season here. It gets very magical. We get snow. And so the whole town gets in spirit. So we are hosting this holiday, just waiting for family to come in town. It's going to be great.
Awesome. Yeah. I live in Austin and there's been sort of this like exodus to Santa Fe. I've actually
Yeah.
never been,
Yeah.
but I've
Lots of
been planning
Texans.
to go. Are you having the same problem now? Is it getting like overcrowded or is it still like in the
No.
right spot?
No, there's plenty of room here. I mean, Santa Fe's a mountain town, similar to Taos. And so we're about 12-hour drive from each other. So anytime you're in Santa Fe, just call me up and I'll show you around the town. It's very magical.
I love that. I'll take a cycling class. That'd be my jam.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that when you're 10 years old, young Laura does not yet know that she wants to run a RevOps consultancy and be a RevOps executive. What did you want to be when you grew up?
Man, well, your parents give you practical advice. My mother was like, you should be a physical therapist. Why? I don't know. My father was like, you should be an engineer. Okay. But I couldn't ever really stop singing when I was younger. I think I had grandiose ideas of being discovered and singing, even though I never was in choir, but I was just always singing. It wasn't until I moved to Austin, Texas after college that I found a Craigslist ad for a lead singer of a band. And I showed up and auditioned and got it, a little later in life. But no, I definitely didn't, as a young Laura, think that I would ever be in sales, let alone the owner of a company and a COO in the tech SaaS space.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always accidental. What were you doing when you were like going into college? Were you working odd jobs? Did you have an idea what you wanted to major in? What was your kind of direction like at that?
No, I was totally lost. I went to a state school and graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Mass Media Communication. Loved the kind of media world, but secretly, actually, maybe this could be something I wanted to also be was I minored in film. So film cinematography, film editing. And actually that was the impetus for me moving to Austin. I had an internship with Richard Linklater, which is a very famous director. And I mean, this was not an internship that was glamorous. This was running errands, answering phones, and that's how you start in the film business. I really did think that that's actually what I wanted to do throughout college and go into film cinematography and editing. Quickly realized that that does not pay bills. And so I got a waitressing job at a local restaurant because that helps pay bills. And then I was approached by two people in Austin that owned a tech company. And they said, hey, I really like the way that you service clients and you talk through, the needs of what we were doing. I was planning an event for them at this company. And they said, do you want to join us? And I said, oh, well, what do you pay? And they're like, well, here's the salary. It was very low and you get your own computer. And I was like, done. So that's actually my entry into the tech world was this very small manufacturer's rep organization. It was just two guys and me, and we sold to Dell a ton of software and peripherals. And that's really where I got my start in the tech world.
So you were discovered after all.
I was. Yeah, not for my singing though.
So at the same time you're doing this, is this also when you're the lead singer in the band?
So then the lead singer of the band came a little bit later, maybe 6 months afterwards, because I at least had a little space to breathe and I, had some liquid courage to go and try it out. I love karaoke. And so Austin is a great place to test out your chops at karaoke. And so I just decided to do something with it. I had been talking about it for a long time. And that's how I entered into my first band. And then my second band, actually, we had gigs regularly in Austin. We were a cover band and it was super fun.
Cover bands are awesome. Hell yeah. That's
Yeah.
super cool.
Yeah.
So while you're doing that, you're I presume doing like multiple things for this kind of first job. Is
Yeah.
it like is there a moment where it clicks? Because you stayed there for a while. Presumably you got good at it. Something worked about it.
Yeah, it was interesting because I was technically sales slash SDR. We were trying to OEM our products into the Dell ecosystem. So the Dell configurator on your computer, you can select all these different software and peripherals that you can buy with it. I joke because I think that, the SDR world and BDR world has it really easy these days because back in the day, I would sit in the Dell lobby and call from their phone so that they wouldn't know it was me to go and like actually find people to buy our software. But here's the deal. I closed almost $1 million deal getting like our headphones actually branded to Dell. So that was like my big deal that we worked on. And I was like, wow, this is really great. And then we decided to move to Seattle. So I quit that job. And then I found a tiny little startup because I needed a job from a referral in my network that I knew in Austin. And I started at Tableau Software. And that was the start, I would actually say the start of my tech career because the trajectory that I had at Tableau over the almost 9 years that I was there was my MBA. I started from the bottom as an inside salesperson and came out as a VP of RevOps.
Yeah, that's crazy. How big was Tableau when you joined it?
So Tableau was, I think I was employee number 600,
Wow.
and they were a perpetual business. So their perpetual ARR was about 250 million. And they were not a SaaS business yet. They had not vertical. I was selling into their first vertical. They had not gone international yet. No partner network, nothing. And so all of us were basically in Fremont in Seattle, sitting all together, just dialing and selling. And it was a wild journey.
And it looks like you obviously did well in sales there, and then
Mhm.
you moved into leadership, and also maybe moved across the country at some point. Can you take me
Mhm.
through your journey into leadership? Because you're really
Yeah.
young at that time. I would imagine there's some surprises in there as well at a fast growing company like Tableau.
Yeah, actually it's funny because I wasn't actually young. I was 30 when it happened and I feel like a lot of people come out of college, they start their tech career, they're an SDR, they're 23, 4, and they have this impetus of like, I need to progress my career. And if I don't, by the age of 30, I need to be VP of something. And they're chasing this thing. I actually started in inside sales back again when I started at Tableau when I was 30. And maybe I took a role that I knew pretty well, but I needed to prove myself. And so, if you can see on my resume, I got promoted every single year that I was at Tableau. I started, like I said, in inside sales and quickly got it. This was easy for me. And I wanted to grow the team. I really loved the mission. The people were excellent. The product was amazing. And so then I went in and I asked for a leadership role. They gave me a team and we built that team and we had, continued the mission. And then it was time I sold into the public sector. It was time for that to grow over to DC. And I just moved to Seattle. I was just getting friends, just understanding this world. And I had to convince my partner at the time, hey, I have this really amazing opportunity to open the East Coast DC office for Tableau and to be a director and take on more teams. And so we had to make that decision. So we moved cross country, opened that. Within 8 months, we went from I think it was 5 people, kind of a myriad of maybe current existing people, to an office of 250.
Wow.
We were hiring every single month. We were recruiting. We had events at these bars. It was just like, come and learn about Tableau. Please come work for us. We were hiring in like panels and groups and we grew that office and it was such a cool experience because it was almost like we were incubating in a tiny little startup again. We were very tight knit and it was such an incredible journey. And then that's where our vertical really matured and I saw a lot of operational opportunities
Mm.
to fix internally. And Tableau only had BizOps. And so the further away, well, the more we grew, the further away business operations was from the field. And so since I was in this kind of vertical, we were doing really well. And I raised my hand. I said, there is an absolute need for operational support in the field. And so basically, they made me a chief of staff, which was their first RevOps person.
Mm.
And that was really, I got to define the role. It made a massive impact on our vertical, somebody handling, partner operations, because everything was kind of rolling up into that vertical. And it was really empowering. And now they have obviously field reps and field ops and field enablement. But I saw all of that come to fruition and being built within Tableau over the years. And it was based on need and asking and just raising your hand and being able to kind of fix problems internally.
Was there a moment when this like, so you start this career basically accidentally, and then it's going pretty well like at this point, right? New opportunities, moving cross country, and then you're kind of getting into the mix as like a tinkerer of like, I want to see how this works. That doesn't really happen unless you've kind of now decided like at some point this is my craft.
Yeah.
Was there a moment where you'd made that decision?
Yeah. Yeah. It was, I was leading a team of 50 inside sellers when inside sales was a thing still. And my counterpart, who was running outside sales, we both really kind of looked at each other. He was my mentor. He's fantastic. And he said, I think that we should own this vertical from an operations. And he's like, we've mastered kind of the craft and the art of selling, of how we should be selling in the public sector. And we can now operationalize this. And I said, you're right. I think that we can package it up. I know we have the right insight to go build further, to open up new networks. And so together, he and I basically went into operations, and he was the CR of the public sector. And we completely mapped it out, operationalized it. And we did have some hurdles internally. There's a lot of things that you have to kind of pay to play in the public sector, and you have to build those business cases internally. And it was really hard. We were met with some, why do we need to invest in FedRAMP? Or why do we need to bring on this whole new partner network? And we had to justify a lot of what we were doing and quantify that. And that's where I feel like I really honed in the data aspect of asking for things in the business and using data to back that up. And if we didn't have that data, I don't think that we would have really gotten further. I mean, obviously Tableau is a data company, but we had to use it as leverage to go for asking for things in the business.
Was the transition to operations natural for you? Because it's interesting when I love talking to people like you who have been successful in sales.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been successful in sales leadership, but then they're also willing to do this operational thing. Sometimes we like play up this false dichotomy of you're kind of one or the other. What about operations worked for you personally? What'd you like about it?
I love operations because it makes the gray area black and white. And to me, that's an ideal world. But when you are a seller and you're trying to close deals and make money, and you're living in the gray area, that is not a good place. I need to, as a seller, understand who do I say yes and who do I say no to. I need to understand my process. I need to understand the resources that are there. At the end of the day, I'm trying to accelerate my deals faster. I'm trying to grow my deals, and I need to go find prospects to fill my funnel. And if all of that is gray, then I'm going to be wasting time and resources, and I'm not going to hit my number. And so we started to see that. And naturally, as a sales leader, if you don't have operations, you're going to have to put that hat on anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, we were all really doing operations and fractionally in all of our roles.
Interesting.
Our sellers, our partners, we had no enablement. So, of course, I'm going over to a local partner and getting on the sales floor and teaching them about Tableau and what we do. And lo and behold, that's an actual role. That's enablement. And so I think that we all wore that hat. And that's actually where I found the most joy. Spoiler alert, hitting a number. And I was successful in doing that. Going to President's Club and having the carrot dangle is fine. But I find an immense amount of joy of problem solving and building. And that's what I loved about not only the stage that Tableau was at, but the opportunity that it gave me as an operator to go and fix it. I loved it.
So awesome. And so you're super high growth company, and you're doing a lot
Mhm.
of stuff. Are you still able to get in any of this extra personal, not, I don't want to call it extra personal stuff, but you're singing, cycling work? Are you able to channel that during this time?
Yeah, no, you shouldn't. No, it was, here's the deal. I was like full on work. And that's a kind of a conversation that I had to have with my partner too. I was like, listen, this is going to be all in. Like, it's going to be a lot. I wish you could have seen me like running to meetings internally. Like, I had like no time. It was all Tableau for those like basically almost 4 years, but it was so rewarding. And it didn't feel like work because the people were excellent. Like I said, the product was excellent. We were solving problems together. I felt very supported, and able to experiment when we were trying to problem solve. Luckily, most of our experiments were good experiments. Some we had lessons learned, but no, I didn't really get to. I had to quit my band when I left Austin. I haven't signed up for a band as of recent, but I did this year. Finally, it was on my New Year's Eve list, or like my list of this is what I'm going to do in the year, since 2001, was to become a spin instructor because I fell in love with cycling. I love outdoor cycling and I love EDM music. So, like, why not put those together?
Yeah.
And it's also teaching. So I have an enablement background too. And I love bringing that joy to people and teaching. So I finally got my certification last year and I am now teaching cycle class 2 times a week. It's great.
Love that. Good for you. I'm a big
Yeah.
cyclist. I love going to spin classes and just jamming
So
out. Such a
fun.
vibe.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about Speckit, because I
Yeah.
have a ton of respect for Speckit as a
Hmm.
company and kind of its
Yeah.
vision. And I'm curious, what ultimately intrigued you about that opportunity to go back to a
Totally.
budding startup and kind of start building things from scratch again.
Yeah. So as my career had progressed within Tableau, I became, kind of the head RevOps of the Americas. I was owning enablement and revenue operations. And that was a, 1,500 person organization, partners, verticals. It was a massive business.
Mm,
And then Salesforce bought us. And so I was pre IPO and post acquisition, and it had changed a lot. And Salesforce is an incredible, incredible company and perfect kind of synergies there. And then obviously COVID hit, so we could move and live wherever we want. So I moved to Santa Fe because I had moved back to Seattle. And at that time, I was kind of doing some soul searching. Salesforce has a lot of, I mean, they are a massive company, so they are operationally sound. And I started to kind of lose my joy of building because things had already kind of been figured out. The cool thing is because I owned enablement, there was a big problem that we were trying to solve within Tableau, and we were rolling out a new forecasting methodology to our sales leaders. And it was about 150 sales leaders. And we were going to do this like in person. It wasn't my decision, but it's like kind of a bigger, larger project. But because I'm now just the deliverer of the news, I'm in a meeting with these, sales leaders. And some guy stands up, love him. And he says, why are we training people outside of the tools that they're working in? You all need, as enablers, you need to meet us where we're working. And I said, you know what? You are absolutely right. I'm going to go and do my due diligence to go find how to make this happen. And that's actually how I found Speckit. I was,
oh,
doing some
interesting.
Google searching and I found that they were just in time learning and that they were a Salesforce native. And I'm like, wow, this would be perfect. And then I stumbled across that they were hiring for RevOps. And I said, wow, that's really interesting too. And so in that kind of conversation, I met with Mel and I met with the team and I just fell in love with, a woman's own business. I was the ICP. They had an open role. It just felt like that opportunity door was open and I took it and it was awesome. Going back, it kind of filled my cup of building again.
I love that. Shout out to Ben Percival too, who Ben was, I think
I love Ben. He was on my team.
he was, I
Yeah.
think, like the second person to ever use our product.
He's absolutely wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very grateful to Ben
Yeah.
for his constructive and gentle feedback. So you do another tour of startup, and then I want to
Yeah.
understand your founder story, because at some point you
Mm.
decide to go out and build Renegade Operations and now
Hmm.
RVNU. So
Yep.
take me through this part of your life.
Yeah, I had spent about 2.5 years at Speckett. We're still trying to figure things out. I came in and things were humming. They had just raised their Series A. They were like, we're going to hire this sales team. It was like 22 SDRs. It was crazy. And I'm coming in with rose colored glasses thinking, okay, great. Like all the data is probably, ready and optimized and systems are great and our customers are so happy. And, as you start to peel back the layers, it was a like kind of coming into head where I wouldn't call it a recession or whatever happened in 2022/23. But what I think that we misstepped is I didn't feel like I had enough time to go back and really understand like where we were in our actual growth. And we have very happy customers, but at the end of the day, when our customers are hurting and they have to choose a line item to cut, we started to see a lot of churn later in that kind of 2023 bucket. And we had to go back and we had to do some layoffs, as a lot of people did. And it was a really horrific experience,
Yeah.
when you have to do that. And I never want to do that again. And then just, moving forward, things happened in life. And I said, you know what? I think I would like to go out on my own. One, it was like I'm exhausted from this 16 years in the go-to-market ecosystems. Maybe I just want to take a break. Maybe I want to do something creative. Maybe I'll go and get my cycle instructor, because at that time I hadn't gotten it yet. And so I left, and then ultimately a client like reached out to me immediately and was like, can you please help? And I was like, oh, I guess I should just be a consultant then. Maybe I'll just pay the bills. And then I met Wayne Morris. He slid into my LinkedIn DMs and said, hey, I like what you're doing. Would you want to, like, I can help mentor you. I've been at this for a while. And he was actually looking for someone to help operationalize and build a company from what he had been doing for the last 3 years. And when he showed me his framework that he had been working off of, so which ultimately now is the RVNU framework, everything clicked in my brain from an early stage startup perspective, because I really wasn't that early at Tableau. They had some stuff figured out, but this was truly early stage founder build. So, I have a problem. I'm identifying my ICP. I'm going to try and build an MVP, and I'm going to quote unquote take it to market. And I saw the missteps that we took at Speckett in that framework. And I was like, more founders need to see this. More founders need to have access to this expertise. And how can we get this in the hands of multiple early stage founders so that they don't burn capital? They never have to go through that hiring and firing. And how can they grow responsibly? And so that's kind of where RV has come in. We're trying to democratize the access to our early stage founders so that they can grow responsibly without having to burn capital, sell their company, dilute it, and have to make those mistakes moving forward. So it was kind of a light bulb moment, and we've been building it in the back end. We're getting ready to launch a product that will align with our mission, more of a course and a community, a podcast. It's very exciting. We're seeing really good signals from what we're building.
That's awesome. What's it been like for you to step into the co-founder seat?
Man, I tell you what, it is like a lonely world of just experiments and self-doubt. And some days you have wins and some days you have, we'll just call them not wins, lessons learned. It's hard. And we're obviously bootstrapping our business, but there's not a lot of overhead. But when you are working on the business and in the business, so we have clients as well, it's really hard to balance your time. And at some point, what we're trying to do is get this off the ground where we can get this product and this course in this community. But it is long hours. It is constantly learning new things. I am marketing. I am the accountant. I am the salesperson. I am the delivery services. I am a now builder. And while it's exhilarating, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of things that, kind of knock you down during the day. But I do so much appreciate having a co-founder in this, because if you are a solo founder, that is a world that you need some mentors and some peers to bounce ideas off of, because I don't know what I would do without a co-founder.
Yeah. That resonates with me, everything you said. I mean, I think about, people ask me some days how my business is doing. And some days I'm like, I think it's amazing. Like, I think we created something incredible. And then other days I'm like, I don't know, please don't ask me that.
Yeah. Well, somebody said the other day to me, man, Laura, you founded a company. It's going well. We are profitable. And he's like, you must be living the dream. And I was like, yo, but you don't know. Like it's such a wonderful opportunity to be able to do this, but I wouldn't say that it's living the dream just yet. It is hard, and you have to continue to build. You have to continue to move forward. And there have been many a times that I've been like, is this the right thing? Should I just stop? But signal in the market just keeps pushing us forward. So I'm hoping that at one day our true mission will come to fruition, and I can at least breathe a sigh of relief.
Absolutely. Well, I very much hope for that. So maybe you could take me through like a little bit of the work that you're doing. What are you
Yeah.
hearing in the market
Yeah.
that's making you say like, okay, we are on the right track here, something that's perking your ears up?
Yeah. So we launched in June. And this is where my co founder and I really hit it off because we wanted to create an assessment to try and benchmark either founder. I was going on the customer journey route on later stage companies. He was really early stage founders. And we both wanted to create an assessment to shorten scope, really, to understand maturity of where the customer or client is at. And so we launched together. We built a go-to-market debt self-assessment. 70 questions. It is based in the framework, the RVNU framework that we have. And really what spits out after you answer those 70 questions is a percentage of where you're at in those 16 stages. What that helps us do is understand, because it's not, it is linear. You need to build the foundation first. But what it helps us do is one, understand benchmarking of where early stage founders are, but it helps visualize this concept that we have called go-to-market debt. And so here's the kicker. We're getting ready to kind of put out a state of, because we've had about 100 founders take this assessment. And what we've seen is that the early stage foundational idea market fit, great. People go into product market fit. They get these first clients and they're like, yes, this is amazing. I'm going to go build a sales team. And that chasm between your design clients or your first clients or your clients that you think are your ICP and building a sales team, there are crucial steps between there that if not taken care of, you will see churn down the future. And we've seen it time and time again. And so what we're trying to do is educate early stage founders that they need to stay in founder-led sales until they can prove that their product is bringing true value back into the customer. And then and only then they can map that into a playbook and give it to a sales team that they're going to hire. And I've heard time and time again that founders or they're going to hire a CRO and then they build a sales team and the sales team gets there and like, I need a playbook on how to win. Like, who do I go after? What's my messaging? Who are my competitors? And it's non-existent because there have been steps that have skipped. So the signal that we're getting in the market, one, is that there's an education that needs to happen. And what's happening is so far that's lived in our brains and we charge a lot of money as consultants. And so these are early stage founders that are either bootstrapping, they're Series A, they're spending money on tech. They don't have, this big chunk of money to pay for our expertise in this early stage. And so we saw this gap between what later stage could pay for consulting and then what they actually needed. And so that's why we're building this more scaled product to where we are helping knowledge transfer what we know. It's an assessment, it's a course in a community where they get access to us at scale at a fraction of the cost. And hopefully this is more of a self-serve education piece to help get them to the moment where they can get escape velocity and get to that 20 million ARR. So that's the signal that we're seeing, is that one, they can't really afford good consultants, to be fair. And how can the good consultants and that expertise get into the hands of early stage founders that they can afford and they can do on their own?
That's an amazing concept.
We're like cannibalizing consulting, which I think is fantastic.
Well, you're maybe, or you're democratizing it in a way, or making it just more available to people that otherwise wouldn't be able to touch it.
Correct.
Which I think is amazing. And you have, I can see that there's a link to the assessment on your LinkedIn, and so we'll post that in some of the show notes here, and I'd be glad to take it myself too. We're an
Yeah.
early stage company, and I think we've got a couple minutes left. So give me one more question. Is
Okay.
usually if I think back to, so Laura is working in a restaurant in Austin, Texas. She's not sure what she wants to do. She's about to be discovered by the tech community for her skills and customer relationships. What would you tell yourself, knowing what you know now?
So my whole thing is uh, opportunity doors are open. So you can't shy away from looking for those quote unquote like doors in your world. So often we say like, "Oh man, I was really lucky to find Tableau," and it's all luck. It's all luck. But I moved to Austin. I did things. I had my eyes and ears open. I took chances. I actually took a step back in my career to be in inside sales when and so my advice is don't think of your journey as linear, and make sure that you are aware and cognizant and putting out in the world and putting yourself in a place where that door, if it is open, you can walk through.
I love that. Very encouraging, very positive. Laura, congrats on all that you're doing with RVNU. Know that we're all going through the same startup journey on that course. So we're always available to you at Boogie Board, and we'd love to do this again sometime.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.